This is TechCrunch.
Uber users in Austin and Atlanta will be able to hail Waymo robotaxis through the app in early 2025 as part of an expanded partnership between the two companies. Waymo's autonomous vehicles have been available on the Uber app in Phoenix since October 2023. Uber has been snatching up self-driving partnerships across its ride-hail and delivery verticals, and it last month said it was partnering with GM's Cruise and the UK's Wave as well. Waymo runs its own autonomous ride-hailing service, Waymo One, in San Francisco, Phoenix, and Los Angeles, and provides around 100,000 trips per week, according to the company. The Alphabet-owned AV company began testing robotaxis in Atlanta and shuttling its own employees around Austin earlier this year, usually the first steps Waymo takes before it begins offering its ride-hailing service in new markets. Still, Waymo said only Uber users would be able to hail its fleet of Jaguar I-Pace AVs in Austin and Atlanta. Waymo said a limited number of users will be able to access rides in Austin and Atlanta via the Waymo One app in the coming weeks. Waymo did not mention how many vehicles it would dispatch in the two cities, but said its fleet would grow to hundreds of vehicles over time. Uber will handle fleet management, like cleaning and repairing the cars, and Waymo will oversee testing and operation of Waymo Driver, as well as offering roadside assistance and other rider support functions. The company said it would continue to operate Waymo One in its existing and future markets. As we look to future markets, we'll consider both our owned and operated Waymo One service, as well as Waymo One partnership models, Ethan Tyker, a Waymo spokesperson, told TechCrunch. The expansion comes even as Waymo grapples with a federal investigation. Regulators in May received 22 reports of its robotaxis crashing or potentially violating traffic safety laws by driving in the wrong lane or into construction zones. Following the moves of other tech giants, Spotify announced on Friday it's introducing in-app parental controls in the form of managed accounts for listeners under the age of 13. The new feature will initially be offered as a pilot program for parents or guardians on a family plan in select markets, including Denmark, New Zealand, and Sweden. Once enabled, parents can manage the account of young listeners on their account by preventing them from watching videos, playing content, or even viewing Canvas videos, the looping videos that accompany music playback, for any content that's labeled explicit. In addition, parents will be able to use a new control feature to decide if their child can play certain artists or tracks. This allows the parent or guardian to make more granular decisions about what kind of music is available to their child, without forcing their tween to use the more kid-friendly but also more restrictive Spotify Kids app. The launch follows efforts from other large tech companies, including TikTok, Meta, Snap, and YouTube, to give parents more control over how their kids use their apps and what sorts of features kids have access to, driven by increasing pressure from regulators to rein in big tech. Other streamers like Netflix, Max, and Hulu, among others, also offer parental controls to parents. Though Spotify is not a TV and movie streaming service or a fully featured social app, it does have a wide variety of content on its platform, some of which may not be appropriate for younger listeners. Parents who today share an account with their kids may also be prompted to switch to a family plan, as each account under the plan will have its own separate recommendations. That means parents' musical tastes won't be mixed up with their tweens and vice versa. This will make Spotify's end-of-year Wrapped results more accurate, Spotify notes. Access to a new feature is available to parents from the Accounts page in the app, where they're able to select the option to add a listener aged under 13, or the market equivalent, then follow the instructions to navigate the various options. Meta is changing the way it labels content that has been edited or modified by AI tools on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. For this type of content, Meta is moving the AI info label to the posts menu. In the past, the label would appear directly under the user's name. The company says the label will still appear under content that it has detected was generated by an AI tool. This means that although the label is being hidden for content that was changed or edited by AI tools, it will still be prominently displayed under content that was fully generated by an AI prompt. For content that was generated by AI, Meta will share whether the content is labeled because of industry-shared signals or because someone self-disclosed, the company says. Meta says the change, which is rolling out next week, will better reflect the extent of AI used in content on its platforms. By making the AI info label harder to find, it might be easier for users to be deceived by content that was edited with AI, especially as editing tools become more and more advanced. Given that generative AI is a relatively newer technology, this isn't the first time that Meta has changed how it labeled such content on its platforms. In July, the company changed its AI label from Made with AI to AI Info after Meta received complaints from photographers who said the label was being added to real photos. At the time of the change, Meta said the original wording of the label wasn't clear enough for users to understand that certain images with the tag were not necessarily created with AI, but may have been edited using AI-powered tools. It was a matter of time, but Apple is going to allow third-party app stores on the iPad starting next week on September 16th. This change will occur with the next major release of iPadOS, the operating system specifically designed for the iPad. The move is related to the European Union's Digital Markets Act, DMA, a set of market fairness and pre-competition rules. Last fall, the Commission shared a list of 6 tech companies that have been designated gatekeepers as they operate so-called Core Platform Services, CPS. It has since added a 7th. For Apple, the Commission initially designated 3 products and services as CPS: its mobile operating system iOS, its app distribution marketplace, the App Store, and its web browser Safari. Then in April, it announced that it was adding Apple's iPadOS to the list. While iPadOS user numbers did not meet the threshold to be in scope of the DMA, the Commission has some leeway in designations and said it considered that there are strong locked-in effects for business users in particular. Apple had 6 months to update iPadOS and make sure that it's compliant with the DMA, which brings us to Friday's announcement. Starting with iPadOS 18, users in the EU will be able to install alternative app stores. Similarly, web browser developers will be able to release browsers for the iPad with their own browser engines. Given the different DMA compliance timeline for iOS, recent changes to iOS in the EU can be an indication of what's going to happen for iPad users in the EU. There are 5 third-party app stores that are now available for iOS in the EU. One example, the Alt Store PAL, was the first alternative app marketplace made available on iOS in the EU. You can use it to download video game emulator app Delta, virtual machine app UTM, torrenting app iTorrent, and more. Apps are notarized by Apple for security purposes before they can be released on alternative app stores. App developers also have to sign new business terms with Apple and pay a controversial core technology fee above a certain threshold. Epic Games also launched its alternative iOS app store in the EU so that people can download and play Fortnite, Rocket League, Sideswipe, and Fall Guys on their iPhones. The company has already said that it plans to bring Fortnite and its other games to the iPad. As for web browsers, while third-party browsers such as Chrome and Firefox have been available for a while, they all still use Apple's own browser engine WebKit to load web content. Tech companies haven't taken advantage of the DMA to release an EU-specific browser app for European users so far. That's all for now. For more stories like this one, visit TechCrunch.com.